Dallas Cowboys Talk. I am Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. Jesus Christ died and he rose again. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, what was the true downfall? What was the true downfall of the 80's Cowboys? Okay? What was the true downfall of the Cowboys in the 1980s? Okay? Now, I've read different things from different players saying it was this, it was that. Okay, so what was the reason for the 80's Cowboys downfall? Was it the 3 consecutive NFC championship game losses in 1980, 81, and 82? Okay. Was it training camp in 1984 where half the team wanted Gary Hogeboom and half the team wanted Danny White? Was it that? Was it the 87 strike? Okay. Was it the fact that the game had passed Tom Landry by? Was the flex defense outdated? I think it was. Okay. Anyway, but yeah. So, what was the downfall of the 80's Cowboys? Okay. And a question was asked after the 1981 NFC Championship game. Okay. People are still questioning the impact of that game, even today, in 2025. People are questioning the impact that it had on the 49ers and the Cowboys. Okay. Danny White and Everson Walls completely disagree that that game led to a 49ers dynasty. Okay. Everson Walls and Danny White don't buy that. Okay. Danny White said it himself. He said he completely disagrees with that assessment that that game led to the 80's downfall of the Cowboys and the 49ers dynasty. Everson Walls said Everson Walls doesn't believe it. Okay. Because what happened in the next year? We got right back to the NFC Championship game that very next year, 1982. The strike shortened season. Okay. And in 1983, we made it back to the playoffs, losing to the Rams. Okay. And Everson Walls said, I just don't see how any of those things have to do with the 81 NFC Championship game. I got to agree with Danny White and Everson Walls, okay? Because not only did we get back to the NFC Championship game in 1982, the 49ers didn't even make the playoffs that year. Okay? Yeah, they didn't even make the playoffs that year. Okay? Yeah, so who knows what the downfall of the 80's Cowboys was, because I think players will tell you different things. Now let's shift to Hogeboom versus White. Okay? So there was a competition in training camp between the backup Gary Hogeboom and starter Danny White. Some of the players on the roster said Hogeboom. Some of the players on the roster said White. Roger Staubach had something to say about that. There was a poll in the paper, I think, where they polled some of the players who wanted Hogeboom versus White, and Roger Staubach was like, it led to a decision that Tom Landry should not have made. And Staubach said that was the true beginning of the downfall of the 80's Cowboys. Okay? So, yeah, people who say it was the 3 consecutive losses. Staubach thinks that the quarterback competition that Tom Landry unnecessarily had in training camp, that was the downfall. Then, of course, Pearson has a car accident that that ended his career. Okay. Yeah, 1984. Yeah, car accident that ended his career. Man. Um, so let's shift to 1985. Okay, we went 10-6, I believe, and we won the division from the New York Giants the last game of the year. Okay, we went 10-6 and we lose to the Rams in the first round. Okay, guess what Bill Bates said about Eric Dickerson before the game? Okay. And Bill Bates writes this in his own book. Bill Bates wrote this in his own book. He said, he was quoted as saying, Eric Dickerson wasn't that good. That's what Bill Bates said. Yeah. That's what Bill Bates said. He wrote it in his book. I kid you not. He wrote it in his book. I was quoted as saying, Eric Dickerson wasn't that good of a back. And then he said, after the Rams shut us out 20-0, the media was all over Bill Bates about that, okay? So, yeah, not the best thing to say about one of the best running backs in the history of the NFL, right? Especially when we get shut out 20-0, right? And so, so was it the 87 strike? Okay. Some people will say it's the 87 strike. It was said that the players who went on strike, they would lose their annual nudity time. Why am I having a hard time pronouncing that word? They would lose their annuity payments. I hope I said that word right. If I didn't, I'm sorry. Okay. Annuity tape. Oh, damn. Annuity payments. Okay. He informed the team, the players who went on strike, they would lose their annuity pay. I'm done. I'm done trying to pronounce that word. They would lose their payments, okay? They would lose their annuity payments. Sheesh. So players, so there were a few players who crossed the picket lines. Lord have mercy. There are a few players who crossed the picket lines on the Cowboys, okay? But tight end Doug Cosby, Everson Walls, they lost money, but they stayed on strike. Okay. So there were Cowboys who crossed the picket line. There were Cowboys who didn't. And Everson Walls seems to think that was the beginning of the downfall of the Dallas Cowboys. Okay? So, what was the downfall of the 80's Cowboys? Who knows? Who knows? Some people say it's the 3 consecutive championship game losses. Some people say it was Hogeboom versus White. Some people say it's the 87 strike. Some people say Tom Landry's coaching, his flex defense was outdated. Okay? So, maybe it's a combination of things that happened, okay? But, what was the downfall of the 80's Cowboys? Could have been a combination of things, okay? But I don't think it's one single thing that caused it, okay? I don't think that's one single thing that caused it, okay? Because, like I said, people will point to the NFC Championship game. Staubach thinks it's Hogeboom versus White. Everson Walls thinks it was the 87 striking players crossing the picket line, causing the downfall. Okay, but yeah. Speaking of the 87 strike, they had a guy. Cowboys had a guy by the name of Kevin Sweeney in the seventh round, a seventh round draft choice. Okay, he started 2 games during the strike, right? He started 2 games during the strike, and he threw 4 TDs in the first 2 games. Okay, and like I said, players across the picket line for that 3rd game. Okay, which was against the Washington Redskins. Okay, and Danny White across the picket line, Randy White across the picket line, Tony Dorsett across the picket line. Okay, and so the players, so the fans, the coaches, they liked the fact, they liked the scabs who were playing the Cowboys in particular. Okay, the fans liked the replacement players the Cowboys were playing with. Okay, so when Tom Landry sent in the regulars, okay, the crowd booed. Okay, because they liked seeing Kevin Sweeney. They liked seeing the replacement players win games. Okay. And what made it even worse was we lost to the Redskins 13-7, who were still playing with replacement players. Yeah. The Redskins were still playing with all replacement players. And we lost to the Redskins, who had replacement players. And to think that we had regulars who crossed the picket line only to lose to the Redskins scabs, okay? 13-7. I would say that's probably the most humiliating thing that happened in Cowboys history. Losing to a bunch of no-name players whose careers only lasted for a few weeks, okay? So, yeah. So what was the downfall of the 80's Cowboys? I would say it's a combination of things. Okay. All right. That's it. And that's all for Classic Dallas Cowboys Talk. I am Sean Farrell. May God bless you all. How about them Cowboys?
Who? Cowboys. What's my blue and gray team? Cowboys. And who I'm rolling with, huh? Who? Cowboys. What's my blue and gray team? Cowboys. And who I'm rolling with, huh? My Cowboys. Steelers better get it right, Giants better get it right. Who? Cowboys. What's my blue and gray team? Cowboys. And who I'm rolling with, huh? My Cowboys. Eagles better get it right, Skins better get it right.